to do with everything, right? Because everything has to do with everything. So don't worry, you'll see. Just trust your boy. Just trust me. What's up? What's up? All right, good to go. Okay, so the first thing that we need to remember, okay, when we talk about this topic, is flesh was formed to house divinity. Okay, hear that. Flesh was formed to house divinity. All right. Now, when we go from that basic premise, now we can move forward. All right. So I'm going to start with a beautiful letter to you. Okay, beautiful letter. We're going to get right into the discussion and we're going to come out. Right. Here we go. One of the important questions that we ask is, well, if I've chosen this person, if I've chosen this specific person, or if I want this version of them, well, what if they show me the opposite? This is going to really answer this in a very interesting way. All right, but we're also going to talk about intimacy as a whole and what your intimacy is calling you to do. All right, so let's get into it. You once mistook hunger for love, right? And fire, passion for fulfillment. You reached outward believing the touch of another could complete you. Yet every grasp only deepened the longing. You were not wrong to desire, only misled about its direction. Desire was never the sin, forgetfulness was. For lust, in its truest essence, is the body's prayer to remember God through form. What once burnt to possess now burns to worship. Right? Do you feel it? Do you feel it? Do you feel it? That same pulse that once sought conquest is the same that shapes constellations. Let me say that one more time. That same pulse, that same energy within you that once sought conquest is the same energy that shapes constellations. It is the same heat that drew you to another's skin is the fire that forges worlds, right? So it's putting this perspective around that sexual energy, around that sacred energy within you, all right? The saints were not celibate in heart. They were lovers of the infinite, consumed by a deeper longing that no mortal could satisfy, just like you. Every curve, every sigh, every longing glance you've ever known was not a temptation away from holiness, but a map leading you back to it. You are both the temple and the flame. Let your body be an altar, your breath a chant, your pleasure a psalm. When you touch as one who remembers that flesh was formed to house divinity. When you gaze, right, let it be reverence, not ownership. When you love, let it be remembrance that to adore another is to glimpse your own face in the mirror of God. And when desire rises again, as it surely will, do not suppress it, lift it, offer it, let it climb your spine as prayer and spill from your heart as light. For in sacred seduction, nothing is profane. The same fire that once threatened to consume you now anoints you. You are not punished by passion. You are purified by it. All right. So we are going to dive into sexual energy, right? How to see others, right? The sacred art of seduction, the sacred art of passion, right? So Genesis 3:16, for your desire shall be for your beloved. I know you probably didn't think I was going to bring scripture in it, but got you again, all right? So they called it the curse, but they never understood its poetry. Desire was never the fall. Desire was never the fall, right? It was the rope by which heaven and earth were bound together. So what religion named lust, mystics recognized as the echo of union. All right, so let's talk about what desire is. What is desire? What is desire? Desire is the longing of God for God. Right? We talk about this all the time. We say, how else would you are love. Let me take a step back. You simply are love. You simply are prosperity. But how would you experience the love that you are without the illusion of separation? How would you experience the embrace of another without the illusion of separation? How? Well, you couldn't. So there is this beautiful purpose, this beautiful divinity within this game, within the illusion of separation, all right? So desire, let's really look at what desire is. Your desire for another is the longing of God for God. It's nothing else. This is the deepest meaning of this. This is the deepest meaning of it. Your desire is the longing of God for God, played out through flesh. Why? Well, let's go to the first quote that I said. Why? Because flesh was formed to house divinity. I know, it's starting to make a little sense, right? Desire is the longing for God, or of God for God, played out through flesh. Every tremor of want, right? Every pulse of yearning is the infinite remembering itself through form. You thought you wanted them, right? Their touch, their warmth, their nearness, right? Their embrace, whatever you want from them. But what you wanted was to come home to your own divinity mirrored through them. We're going to bring this all back to you because it's always about you. All right. The ache that you experienced was never for possession. It was for remembrance. All right. So a beautiful quote by Rumi. All right. And I've said this quote before. Beautiful quote. All right. The moment I heard my first love story, I started looking for you and not knowing how blind that was. Lovers don't finally meet somewhere. They're in each other all along. The love that you see in another is simply the love that you are. It's a mirror of your divinity. All right, so let's get a little bit deeper. All right, Song of Solomon. Song of Solomon is, if you never read the Bible, if you want to read a good love story, read the Song of Solomon. All right, so Song of Solomon 8:6. Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm. For love is strong as death. For love is strong as death, all right? Its passion unyielding as the grave. Let me say that one more time, right? Its passion unyielding as the grave. It burns like a blazing fire, like a mighty flame, right? No one leaves love untouched. No one experienced love and is untouched by it, right? Whether it's the love of a parent, the love of a person, the love of a child that you have. Nobody is untouched by love, right? Love is unyielding, all right? So let's talk about it. Love in its purest form is not gentle. It is consuming. Love is consuming, okay? It does not knock softly at the door of the soul, right? It doesn't just gently wake you up out of bed. It comes and slaps the shit out of you. Wake up, right? You fall in love with somebody. It's like one day I was fine. The next day, all I could think about was they little musty ass. I know. Love just slaps you awake, right? It does not knock softly at the door of the soul. It tears it open and sets the room aflame to be sealed upon the heart, right? So this is what the Song of Solomon said. The first line was, set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm, right? This is talking to your lover, right? Set me as a seal upon your heart, right? So to be sealed upon the heart is to surrender to a love that will not negotiate with fear or doubt. This transcends the mortal's definition of romance, right? Mortals have this definition of romance. It almost sounds like possession when you start talking to me about it, right? But if you don't do this and you do this and you do that, then I can love you and then you'll be worthy of love, right? But this transcends that, okay? So this transcends the mortal's definition of romance. It is the fire that reduces false identity to ash so that only truth remains. Beautiful. Divine love does not arrive to decorate you. It comes to transform you. It burns away everything you are not until only the essence of God within you remains. The eternal ember that no death can extinguish, right? When we talk about death, we're not talking about just the physical transition, right? Remember, we're not talking about the physical transition. There is no death. So what are we actually talking about? Well, when we think of the metaphysical meaning of death, right? One of the quotes that I love is the mystic, right? The spiritual man, all right? Does not fear death because they've died 1,000 times. I want you to think about the last relationship that you were in, that person is now an ex. I want you to think about that, okay? When you got out of that relationship, there was a mourning process, okay? There was a part of you that mourned for them. But on a deeper level, there was a part of you that mourned for you. Were you really mourning for them, or were you simply mourning the version of you that thought y'all would be together forever? The version of you that saw them a certain way. The version of you that wanted to be with them forever. The version of you that, you know what I'm saying? The version of you that missed the way they touched you, missed the way that you touched them. What were you truly mourning? When you understand this, right, you're always mourning yourself. This is the death of yourself. Okay? So even when we're talking about you getting this specific person in your life, what are you really trying to get? It's a version of you. The version of you that sees them in this way. The version of you that knows that they see you in a certain way. The version of you that enjoys their touch. The version of you that knows they enjoy your touch. You're always manifesting, choosing a version of you. It's you, right? You only experience life within you. Even when you're inside of them, you're inside of you. Let me say that again. That was kind of a bar right there. Even if you're inside of them, you're inside of you. You are, like, when you love them, you're the one feeling love within you. It's always about you. You're the main character, all right? So here we go. Divine love does not arrive to decorate you. It comes to transform you. It burns away everything you are not until only the essence of God within you remains. The eternal ember that no death can extinguish. All right, here we go. To carry such a seal upon your arm is to live as one branded by eternity. It means every action, every touch, every movement is marked by the sacred fire of devotion, right? Here's what we're really about to get into. It's turning lust into devotion. Turning that desire to intimacy into a desire to worship the divine within somebody else, right? We're making it real erotic, right? The passion of divine love does not fade like mortal desire. Right? This is how mortals describe love. I used to love them. We fell out of love. Okay? It redefines itself into light. Right? It is the flame that outlives the flesh. The eternal blaze that whispers, even in death I remain. For this is the secret the mystics knew. Love is not an emotion, but the eternal substance from which all things are made. To love in this way is to die into union and to rise as the flame itself. I know it sounds a little mystical, a big word salad, but let's talk about it a little bit more in a more straight up way. All right. The mystics never feared the body. When we talk about lust in this day and age, when we talk about sexuality in this day and age, there's almost this fear to really talk about it. It's, oh, well, just don't do it. Keep it in your pants. Just don't do it. How difficult can it be? Just don't do it. Right? Well, what do you do with that sexual energy? Well, we see, I ain't even gonna get into that, but we see problems all the time. Right? We see it in the church. They're the ones simply telling you just keep it in your pants and look at all the sexual scandals that they're going through, right? So there has to be more to this. Why do you have this energy within you? Why do you have this energy in you? Surely it's not simply to suppress. That would make no sense. That would make absolutely no sense, right? So we're going to talk about the deeper meaning of it as well. All right? So the mystics never feared the body. They feared forgetting the divinity within it. When does this become a problem? Right? All these problems seem to stem from the illusion of separation. Okay? When I do not see myself as source, see myself as one with God, and I don't see you as one with God, well then our communion can become just this extraction of things instead of the worship, right? That I see the God within you, you see the God within me, right? You see how that can make just a huge difference right there. That transforms lust right there. Just that simple shift in perspective, all right? So lust becomes sin only when it forgets its origin. Let me ask another question, right? Because we often talk about lust, right? It's a world that's obsessed with lust. At what point, okay, let's say you meet a woman, right? And you decide this is the woman that I want to marry. At what point does your lust transform into love or quote unquote love? Where is the line? Where is the line? What is the difference between love and anything else? What is the difference? What was that? Well, love is just rooted in the body or it's an ego or yeah. So even if you want this person, there's not going to be times where the desire for them is rooted in the body. Won't that always be the case? Won't there be some kind of this? I'm not. Just think about this. When does lust transform? Where's the line? What is the difference? Well, when you really start thinking about it, you'll realize everybody has their own definition up here of lust. But do you ever stop lusting for the woman that you want? Ladies, you ever stop lusting for the man that you want? Does it ever go away? Does it one day just automatically turn into something different? It doesn't. That's the question. It doesn't. Shit. It doesn't. All right. So lust becomes sin only when it forgets its origin. The body was carved from the breath of God. Its hunger is divine intelligence seeking expression. To demonize desire is to exile a piece of heaven. To demonize desire is to exile a piece of heaven, right? Beautiful. All right, so the Gnostics taught that the material world was not evil. This is the same thing that we talk about. The material world is not evil. Your forgetfulness of who you are, right? That's the only sin, but that's missing the mark. That's not sin from the moral standards, right? When mortals talk about sin, they talk about it from this perspective of climbing this ladder of righteousness. But you are righteousness. You are God. You are all that there is. You are the manifestation of God, right? So all these quote unquote sins truly stem from the forgetting of who you are, right? That perception of separation between you and God. Let's get into this, all right? The Gnostics taught that the material world was not evil. It was ensouled light. The same current that moves through sexual longing is the Kundalini rising through the spine, right? In Sanskrit, Shakti, the divine feminine, is the current of creation. The impulse to merge is not merely physical. It is cosmic memory trying to rejoin itself. That was a bar. All right? The impulse to merge. Right? You have the impulse to merge with all types of things, right? When you are into your work, you seemingly merge into the work. You enter this flow state. When you're deep in meditation, you seemingly merge into nothingness. You're in the flow state. When you are enjoying food, you can merge into the food. You become one. When you have a sexual experience with someone else, you can enter the flow state. You merge into union with this person. You have this divine urge to merge. The divine urge to merge. The divine urge to merge. Let me write that and put that on a shirt, right? I got the divine urge to merge, right? So the impulse to merge is not merely physical. It is cosmic memory trying to rejoin itself. Beautiful. So quote by Paramahansa Yogananda, right? When the energy of desire rises upward, it becomes devotion. When it flows downward, it becomes bondage. Beautiful. Your work then is not to suppress the fire, but to raise it. I know. I was zooming ahead. I'm like, I know somebody's thinking, what does this have to do with my SP? Don't worry, we're going to get there. All right, so John 3:14. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. Okay, and as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. Okay, let's talk about that. All right, the serpent, right, long misunderstood, was never the symbol of sin. It was the image of transformation. When Moses lifted the bronze serpent before the afflicted, right, those who gazed upon it were healed, not because of the metal itself, but because of what it represented. The elevation of what once poisoned into what now purifies. To uplift the serpent is to raise the lowest impulse, desire, fear, instinct into awareness, to let the earthly be transmuted by light. The wilderness was not a punishment, but a proving ground, a place where the shadow could be seen and sanctified. All right. So let's really break that down. Let me break that down in plain English. How about that? A little plain English for you. Okay. So what is the representation of this staff of Moses? What does it represent? Well, we can go and we can talk about the Kundalini and the spine and all of that. Sure. Cool. But what did it represent just in layman's terms? It simply represent oneness with source. The knowing that God is within you. Right? And so from that knowing that you are source, that God is within you, you are one in the same, right? Your desires become holy. Okay. So let's think about this from a specific person perspective. Okay. This could probably help a lot of you with your specific people. All right. So take a seat and hear your boy out. All right. So I'm often talking about this and I'm like, okay, well, with this person, simply make a decision of what you want and choose to see them as perfect. Okay. So this whole conversation here has simply been about changing the way that we view intimacy, physical intimacy, sexual desire. Okay. So one of the bars here was that you constantly have this desire to merge souls with other, right? You think you really want them, but what's on a soul level, what you're doing is you're seeing God. It's God recognizing God. It's eternity, the infinite, recognizing the infinite. Now, the reason why you even want to manifest or choose a different version of them is let's be very real, okay? Let's go to the desire you don't even know that you have, because you choose to see the perfection in them. Okay. Now, on this journey, okay, when certain things are happening out in the 3D world and you're like, oh, that doesn't look right. Okay. Why haven't you given yourself permission to see them as God, to see the ideal version of them in your mind, and then allow that version of them to unfold in reality? Why not? Why won't you give yourself permission to do that? This is the only thing that you have to do. My bad. This is the only thing that you have to do on the journey to actually getting the person that you want. It's a divine remembrance that they are source. So matter of fact, I'm going to skip forward and I'm going to skip backwards because I was going to get to this later, but let's get into it right now. All right. So let's go through these 3 levels, because we have lust, then we have love, and then we have devotion. The goal is to get from lust to love to devotion. All right. So lust asks, how can I have them? How can I have them? Right. This is still outside of me. Right. How can I have them? What can I do? What technique can I do to have them? Right. Lust. Love asks, how can I know myself through them? How can I know myself through them? I see the divine mirror that they are of me. Right. And now I can start extracting those limiting beliefs that I have, right? Well, this person sees me as this, or that, you know what I'm saying? You know, they're stubborn. Well, that's simply my perspective of this person being stubborn. It's still all me, right? Now, the next level is devotion. What does devotion ask? What does devotion ask, right? Devotion asks, how can I adore God within them and within me? See, love sounds like the highest, right? How can I know myself through them? It sounds like the highest. But it's still seeing the imperfections of them. When devotion is, how can I adore God within them and within me? And you know what this does? It gives them the actual energetic space to come forward perfectly. Beautiful. Let's talk about this, all right? So when desire matures into devotion, when you choose them, when you truly choose someone, right? So when you're trying to manifest this SP, right? Even that is still the perspective of what? They're separate. They need to change. I don't have them. They're out there. I need something for them to feel better, right? But when we switch this to devotion, right? How can I adore God within them and within me? Do you see? When I say see them as perfect, see them as perfect, this is what I'm saying, okay? When desire matures into devotion, perception itself is transfigured. You no longer see others through the lens of lack or need, but through the eyes of wholeness. The ego seeks to get something from another. The awakened heart seeks to recognize something within them. When you approach another as an extension, of the divine, not as a source of validation, but as an expression of God, you cease projecting wounds and begin to behold perfection. What is stopping you from seeing that person that you want as perfect? What is stopping you from seeing them as God? It's only you. It's your lack of ability to move from lust to the worldly desire just to have this person to validate something within you, to devotion, to recognizing them as source. This is why I'll constantly push y'all back. This is why we don't go over techniques all the time. It's they're perfect. The situation is unfolding perfectly. You are perfect. It's seeing the God within you so you can see the God within them. And when you allow yourself, when you give yourself the permission to choose right now the version of them that you want and be devoted to that version, now they can show up perfectly. But until then, what are we doing? We're looking at them and we're seeing all the faults. They did this, the past this, the ex this. They did. That's not devotion. That is you purely trying to validate and seek some sense of healing by pulling them towards you so you can feel better about yourself. When honestly, let's be honest, y'all sit down, hold hands, all right? What they did, okay? What they did, okay, has nothing to do with you. Okay. Let me say that a different way. Okay? How you see them has everything to do with you, okay? What they did has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with you. Life is all about you. It's all about you, right? So we sit there and we demonize them. We say they did this, they did that, but it has nothing to do with them. It has nothing to do with them. It only has everything to do with you and your inability to move from that worldly view of love into pure devotion. Do you hear what I'm saying? All right, so let's get into this. I'm going to read that part one more time. When you approach another as an extension of the divine and not as a source of validation, but as an expression of God, you cease projecting wounds. What you see in them is simply you. It's just you. They're just you. Okay? You begin to behold perfection. This shift in awareness plants new seeds in consciousness. Instead of affirming separation, you affirm unity. The other person is no longer a mirror of what you crave, but a reflection of what you already are. Don't let that go over your head, okay? The other person is no longer a mirror of what you crave, but a reflection of what you already are. It's moving to that knowing that right now you're already everything that you desire to be. You're already everything that you desire to be. You're no longer trying to get them for validation. I need you to show up like this to make me feel good and to rub my back and to rub my head, and because I just can't live without you. But they become a reflection of what you already are. You actually come into this present moment and realize that you are perfect. Okay? Let's go a little bit further. All right. So from this vision, manifestation becomes natural and not forced. Remember, if it feels like work, it's some things to think over. All right. You got to, find the next sleep tape and affirm till you're blue in the face and visualize until you get that vein that pops up right there in your head. All right. The perfect version of them emerges because you no longer relate to their limitations, only to their divinity. In your consciousness, they are already whole, already radiant, already aligned with love. So as Neville Goddard said, to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled is to make it so. When you assume the perfection of another, you call it forth. You lift them as Moses lifted the serpent, not through effort, but through vision. In loving them rightly, you invite the divine pattern within them to awaken and step forward into form. Okay? If you're constantly focused on what they did, on the version of them that you don't want, that is not love. You're not manifesting them. That is just you focused on lack. See them as perfect. See them as God because they are. You only want that You only want them because it is the God within you seeking the God within another. Give yourself permission to actually see the truth about them. And now the truth of who they are will step forward because it's law. Okay, so let me say that one more time. In loving them rightly, you invite the divine pattern within them to awaken and step forward into form. Okay, let me go back a little bit now. All right. Let's talk about the body as a temple of worship. So 1 Corinthians 6:19. 1 Corinthians 6:19. Exactly. Just know and let it flow. I know we were rhyming in the chat today. I feel that though. 1 Corinthians 6:19. Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit? Okay. The body is not a battlefield between spirit and flesh. We're the only ones who are walking around thinking that way. The body is not a battlefield between spirit and flesh. It is the cathedral where both meet. Doesn't that make more sense? If you are the temple of the Holy Spirit, okay, then what you are is the meeting place of divinity and identity. You are the cathedral where both meet, where spirit and flesh meet. Every nerve, right? Every sigh, every moan, right? Every surge of pleasure is a liturgy written in blood and breath and other substances. Okay? When you touch another with awareness, you are not indulging the animal. You are participating in creation. All right? So a Meister Eckhart quote, the eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me. And I always go back to that quote because it's so profound. It's so profound because it's all God, right? To the pure, all things are pure. To the one who knows that they are God, all things are God. Beautiful. All right. So when you gaze at the beloved, think about this in terms of that person you want. Okay. That thing that you want, that money that you want, it's all the same. Okay. It's all the same. When you gaze at the beloved, it is not two beings staring. It is the one beholding itself. Every kiss becomes communion. Every heartbeat, a rosary bead counting the names of God. Every time you say that name, you're saying the name of God, right? Say it with reverence. Every time you say that name, you are saying the name of God. Say it with reverence. Every time you think of them, you are thinking of God. Be mindful. Okay? Be mindful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right? So next, the mystical marriage within. The sacred seduction does not end in union with another. It begins and ends in union with self. The feminine within you, right? Feeling, intuition, creation, must bow to the masculine within. Consciousness, direction, presence. Don't worry if that triggered you. And vice versa. And vice versa. When I say something, well, what about the woman? All right. So the feminine within you, the feeling, intuition, the creation must bow to the masculine within. Okay. The consciousness, the direction, and the presence, and vice versa. Beautiful, right? Together they give birth to the Christ within. The awakened I am. But isn't that making someone else your God, or is it the God of you? There's only you. There's only you. Right? This is all about pulling your mind back into the present moment and realizing that you're simply seeing God within another. You're simply seeing yourself within another. When you gaze into someone's eyes long enough, you will see yourself. Right? They're not out there. But the illusion of separation gives you the opportunity to experience love. How else would you experience love? How else would you are love, but how would you experience it without the illusion of separation? Right? You are God. There's only God, right? You are God. There's only God, and there's only you. So when we see others as perfect, we're simply seeing ourselves as perfect. Okay? Because it all stems from how we view ourselves anyway. All right. So when the inner marriage is consummated, every outer relationship becomes holy. You no longer seek completion, you share overflow. What once burned to possess now burns to worship. Here we go. There's the divine shift. What once burned to possess now burns to worship. You no longer seek completion, you share overflow. Right? You coming into my life is just a celebration. It's a celebration of the overflow of love that I already am. Right? I'm not seeking your completion because I'm already complete. How could I not be? Right? I'm God. Okay? I do not seek to possess. Why would I need to possess when I'm all that there is? Why do you need to possess anything when you're all that there is? This even goes, like, even when we think of letting go, if you're all that there is and you let go of something, where does it go? Where does it end up? There's no point of letting go or holding on. The only thing that matters is who you are right now. All right? What once burned to possess now burns to worship right now in this moment. Therefore, when they cross my mind in this moment, I see them as perfect. When I'm experiencing them, even when they don't look the way that I want them to look, they're not showing up the way that I desire them to show up, guess what I do? I still worship them in this moment. I still see them as perfect in this moment, and I go with the flow. All right? Let it go and go with the flow. Okay? Cool. So a couple reflection questions. And then we got another poem for y'all. Another love letter. And then some affirmations. Some short affirmations. Okay? So reflection question number one. Number one. Where in my life have I suppressed desire instead of sanctifying it? Where in my life have I suppressed desire instead of sanctifying it? Where have you been running from your desire instead of seeing it as perfect, treating it with devotion? Okay? Number two, how can I experience my body as an instrument of devotion rather than indulgence? Right? It's moving up that ladder from lust to love to devotion, right? Those distinct paths, right? When you lay with someone, you're laying with God. You're honoring God, right? When you call their name, you are speaking the name of God, right? Very beautiful. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. So hopefully this helps, right? Hopefully this is giving a different perception to the intimacy you have with another, but also simply the devotion of choosing to see the God within another that simply mirrors the God within you. Okay? Number three, what does it mean for me to love another as God loving God? What does it mean for you to love another as God loving God? What does it mean? I'll answer that in a second. We're going to get through this topic though. All right, number four, where does lust still mask itself as love? And how can awareness purify it? Are you demonizing your desires? Is your desire simply, right, to get validation for another? Or do you see God within everyone? Right? Simply that perspective shift, right? Simply that perspective shift, right, transcends love from devotion, or lust from devotion. Okay. And so here we go with the letter, right? We got a letter and some affirmations. Cool. All right. All right. Your breath was a hymn long before you ever prayed. Your breath was a hymn long before you ever prayed. The heat between your thighs has always been holy. The original altar where creation first whispered yes. Every tremor, every ache, every pulse has been the divine reminding you that God still moves through flesh. What you once called lust was never dirty. It was divinity disguised as desire, knocking at the door of your own body, begging to be remembered. You thought you wanted them, their eyes, their scent, their touch, but you were really longing for yourself, for the infinite within you mirrored in another's form. Every gasp was a psalm, every kiss an initiation. The trembling was not weakness, but worship, your soul recognizing itself beneath the illusion of separation. For even when your lips met theirs, it was always I am kissing I am. Let this remembrance uncoil within you. The serpent was never sin, it was power misunderstood. What once burned to possess now burns to praise. Let your desire rise not as conquest, but as offering. Let your longing become devotion. Let your pleasure become prayer. There is no shame in your fire, only misdirection. Direct it upward and let it sanctify rather than consume. When you enter the temple of touch again, enter as God. When you undress, do so as light revealing itself to light. Let your moans become mantras and your pleasure become proof that heaven is not distant. You were never meant to suppress your desire, only to purify its aim. For the holy and the erotic are not opposites. They are the same flame seen through different veils. You are the worship and the worshiper, the flame and the altar, the prayer and its fulfillment. What once was lust is now longing for the beloved within. And as you burn, remember, this fire was never meant to shame you, only to awaken you, right? Your true sin is forgetting who you are. Right? This is the true sin. It's the true missing the mark, right? Everything stems from this one thing, which is the illusion of separation, forgetting who you are, okay? So now affirmations. Remember, you're not trying to be these. Okay, this is divine remembrance of who you've always been, okay? Cool. Number one. My desire is holy, for it is God seeking God. My desire is holy, for it is God seeking God. Okay? It's beginning to look at the truth of who you are. My desire is holy because it's God seeking God. That person that you want, this is God seeking God. Give yourself the permission to see the God within them, to see them as perfect, to see them as the perfection that you want. Give them permission. Simply by you seeing them as perfect and knowing them to be perfect right now, you are giving them the permission to step forward as perfect. Okay? Number two, I do not suppress the fire. I lift it into light. Right? I don't suppress that desire for another. Right? I bring it into light. I lift it into the light. Right? I see it through the purifying lens of I am God. God is within me. That this is God. This is what God wants me to experience. Huh? Number three, every touch, every breath, every longing is a prayer of remembrance. I am both temple and flame. Right? You are both the worshipped and the worshiper. Right? I worship by being fully alive in the present moment. Right? Seeing them as perfect in the present moment. Knowing yourself as perfect in the present moment. Right? It's all about you. Okay? It's all about you. And number 5, right? Last but certainly not least, what once burned to possess now burns to praise. Right? If my body is an altar, right? It's the temple of God, right? When you stand before me, you stand before the altar of God. What about when you stand in front of another, right? You stand before the altar of God. You stand before the temple of God. How do you see them? How do you choose to see them? But when you choose to see them as God and as perfect, you give them the permission for a perfect version of them to step forward. Simply law, right? Simply law. All right, cool. All right, well, that's all I had today, y'all. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Of course, this document will be on YouTube. I'll upload it right after we get off of here. So you'll have this. You can do whatever with it. Probably be back on this evening. But finna go do some things before some of these, some afternoon coaching sessions. All right? Cool. Appreciate y'all. So the YouTube is the same. It's Alexander Dwayne. But there's a link tree in the bio of all the social medias. You can go to the link tree. You can go to the YouTube from there. Okay? Cool. I appreciate you, my guys. I appreciate you, my goddesses. All right, y'all have a beautiful, beautiful evening and or day. And I can't tell you time because the time is a maybe. I might be on, might not be on. It depends on how I feel. But I will give you a window of time. I'll give you a cable man window, which is, I'll say 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Central. If it's not in between those times, it might be before or after. So there's the window right there, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Central. Cool. All right, love y'all and peace.